Hello and welcome to math class. So today we're going to start off a little bit differently. I want you to take a second and pretend, okay? You're going to the grocery store and your parents give you $25 to spend. And you have to decide, okay? You want donuts for $4.95, bacon for $8.49, Skittles for $2.97, and a robot toy that costs $12.78. I want to know, can you buy all four of these items for the $25 that your parents gave you? If you can't, what can you buy to spend the most money without going over that $45? So pause your videos right now and try. Okay, so we should have tried first adding. Now, in my mind, if I'm going to the grocery store, I'm going to actually round here because I don't want to have to actually do all of this math in the grocery store. So I'm going to tell myself that, okay, 5 cents off. Donuts cost $5. Okay. Now, it's super important when we're rounding money that we always round up because we don't want to be the person who gets to the counter and is like embarrassed because we don't have enough money. That sucks. So we're going to pretend like this is $9, $3, and this is $13. Now, adding here, right? So 16, this would be 14, adding this together would be $30. So even though we only rounded up like 5 cents here, 50 cents here, 3 cents here, and like 22 cents here, we're over by like $5. So we know we cannot buy all four of those items. So we want to figure out what can we buy to spend the most of that 25, because if our parents are giving us $25, we don't want to come home with like $10 and change because then next time they're only going to give us $15. So we want to spend as much of that $25 we can. So that way the parents know that next time it costs us $25 to go to the store. So if you haven't already, I want you to pause it and try to find out what can you buy to get close to that 25. Okay, so some of you might have tried adding things up here, like we're pretending that this is $5, $9, $3, and $13. We might have said like 13 and 9 is $22. So that's really close. And then we could buy some Skittles, and that would get us to about $25, right? Some of you might have said, hey, this is $5. Can't I just buy 5 things of donuts? That would get me pretty close to 25. There's lots of different ways that we can do this, but what I really want to get across is that estimation can give us a really good use or a good tool to use when we're talking about money or decimals, okay? We want to be able to round to kind of figure out what our answer should be close to. So today's lesson is actually lesson 5.2, which is adding and subtracting decimals. So go ahead and write this at the top of your notes. And what we're looking for today is how do you add and subtract decimals? So by the end of the lesson today, we should be able to add and subtract decimals fluently. Okay, that means like without mistakes. That's if we can add and subtract without mistakes, we know we've met our goal. So adding and subtracting decimals has 3 steps here. Okay, so this should be the heading in our notes. Step 1 is that we want to set up the problem vertically. And line up the decimal points. This is super duper important right here, is that we want to line up our decimal points. And then we add or subtract like we would with whole numbers. And then we drop the decimal point straight down in our answer. So again, if we have messy handwriting, we really want to make sure that we're doing this with our graph paper. 1 number per box, give our decimal the same, give it a box as well. Okay, this is being a nightmare here for me. Not sure why that doesn't want to click. Hide. There we go. Okay, so I don't have an example on that page anyway. So in our foldables, so you should go up and grab a new foldable if you haven't already. we're going to fill out the adding decimals and the subtracting decimals portion. So this is the adding decimals. So the first thing that we're going to do when we add decimals, so this is our first step, I want you to label these in steps, is line up our decimals. So we want to line up our decimals up and down, okay? So 9.8 is going to go on top, and then I'm going to start by putting my decimal right below it. I see 2 is to the left, and 1, 2 is to the right. Okay, step 2 is that we're going to add as whole numbers. We may have to write zeros as placeholders. So if we were doing this and it was graph paper, each of these would have their own box, right? So 9 and 2 would be in a box, or a box above each other. Decimals would, 8. But here there's a blank spot. So actually we want to fill this in with what we call a ghost zero, okay? And we can't see it, it's not really there, but when it decides it wants to appear, it's a 0. Okay, so zeros can be ghosts. Ghost zeros can show up at the very end of a number or the very beginning of a number. They're never in the middle of a number. If a ghost zero is in the middle, they have to show themselves. So then what we're going to do is we're actually just going to add like normal. Okay, we start over on the right and we move left. So 0 plus 2 is 0. 8 plus 1 is 9. Then I bring that decimal point straight down, and 9 plus 2 is 11. Okay, I like to do this during step 2. I just bring it down as I move from right to left. Some people like to just add and then put the decimal in the end, but it's very important that we put that decimal in there. So adding really isn't any different than adding whole numbers. When we're adding whole numbers, if we have like 92 plus 146, we're still lining up our decimal points. Our decimal points are just invisible. So we have to make sure that we're lining up by place value. These are our ones. They are lined up, okay? These are our tens, hundreds, just like these are our tenths and hundredths. So we really want to make sure that we're lining up those decimal places. So with subtraction, it's the same thing, okay? Our first step is going to be to line up our decimals, okay? And the same goes. So 8 here is first, so it needs to go on top, and then 1.65. So 1 is in the ones place, and then 6, 5. So we really are still lining up our decimal points. Anytime we see a whole number, we can imagine that there's a decimal point that's just invisible at the end. It's tethering a bunch of ghost zeros, literally until infinity. But because they're ghosts, they don't have to show themselves. But in this case, because this guy has 2 place values after the decimal, this guy needs to have 2 place values after the decimal. So we have to make sure, step 2, we subtract like whole numbers, but we really do need to have zeros as placeholders, and we need to borrow. So this is regular subtraction. We cannot do 0 minus 5. We can't do 0 minus 6. We come over here. We take a group away and we give it here. So this would be a 10. Take a group away, give it here, 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 6 is 3. Again, some people like to do this at the end. I like to bring down my decimal while I'm working, and then 7 minus 1 is 6. So adding and subtracting decimals is really not much different than adding and subtracting whole numbers. We're still lining up our ones place, but instead of our ones place, we're going to pretend like it's that decimal at the end there that we're lining up. So when we're using graph paper, I want to show you this example here using graph paper. So Susan rode her bike 3.12 or 3 1200ths miles on Monday and 4.7 or 4 7/10ths miles on Tuesday. How many miles did she ride in all? Because I want to know a total, I know that I'm adding here. I'm trying to find the total number of miles that she rode. So 3.12 is on top. And then again, I'm lining up that place value. So it would be 4 is on the left of the decimal, 7 is on the right, and then I have an empty box here, so that's where I'm going to put my 0. So when we're using graph paper, it's super important that we give each number its own box. Then I just add like normal. 2 plus 0 is 2, 1 plus 7 is 8. I bring down my decimal. 4 plus 3 is 7. So in total, she rode 7.82 miles. So go ahead and pause, and I want you to try this one on your own. Okay, so this one asks, it says Mia is 160.2 centimeters tall. Rosa is 165.1 centimeters tall. How much taller is Rosa than Mia? This how much taller tells me that Rosa is my total. She's the tallest. And I'm taking away Mia's height. So I'm actually subtracting. So Rosa is 165.1 and Mia is 160.2. And then I am subtracting. So notice that I lined up my decimals. I don't have to add any ghost zeros because there's no empty boxes. Now I subtract. Now looking at this, 1 minus 2 doesn't work, so I have to borrow. This becomes a 4, this becomes an 11. 11 minus 2 is 9. Bring down my decimal. 4, 0, 0. So she is 4.9 centimeters taller. Okay, at this point, I am going to come up pretty quick here and we're going to do some practice problems. But until then, I would like you to please start on your homework, which is page 116. And then I actually changed this. So it's page 116, and I want you to do numbers 6 through 8. 21 through 27 odd, 28, and 29. So this is 6, 7, 8, 21, 23, 25, 27, 28, and 29. Complete all problems on graph paper. That means all of you. I want you to do this. It's going to keep it organized. It's going to make sure that your place value is lined up. Okay, go ahead and get started on your homework, and I'll be up to do practice problems soon.